Hello everybody, my name is Cameron Earl. Today I'm back with another video. Today we are doing some more Villainous talk. I still don't have the Marvel Villainous Mischief and Malice set because I honestly could have waited to film this video till I don't know, because I ordered it off I ordered a set off a website that I never heard of before, and the wording's kind of weird on it. It said it'd be here 4 days after it's shipped, and it says it's shipped, but I don't know. The 4th business day is supposed to be tomorrow if it really did get shipped, but I don't know. Usually time of packages get delivered to my house is 5, and it is currently 3 where I'm at, so I'm still looking because most of the time packages get delivered a day or so early. But I came here just to do some Villainous talk. Today I'm doing a ranking, which I didn't think I was going to do, but I ended up doing anyways. This is me ranking all the villains, Disney and Marvel, that are in the Villainous sets, on how much I like them in the movie. So, of course, the bottom is the character I like the least in the movie, and that is Queen of Hearts from Alice in Wonderland. Queen of Hearts appeared in like the last 20-15 minutes of the movie. That she wasn't even... I don't remember anything about her except that she just cowered before fear as a little girl got 100 feet tall. That's all I have to say. This character, and it's super obnoxious and annoying when she throws her temper tantrum. So, yeah. Do not like Queen of Hearts. Next one I have is a character I do like sometimes, but not all the time. But most of the time he's just forgettable, and he doesn't really appeal much to me aside from being the OG Disney villain, and that is Pete. Pete is interesting because I heard like how they did his board, how they did his gameplay in the Perfectly Wretched set was they took like 3 Mickey Mouse shorts and put them all into a collage in his to his board, and that's when we got Pete here. But he doesn't have much aside from, like, even in Kingdom Hearts, he just kinda sits there being Maleficent's lackey. But either way, sometimes when he's on screen I find him enjoyable, but there's just villains above him that I enjoy more. Next character I have on the list is Prince John. Now, Prince John is interesting because usually I don't like villains who are cowardly and just run away, but he actually makes it kind of funny. So I do like Prince John in the Robin Hood movie, and the Robin Hood movie itself is one that I find criminally underrated and a very good movie, and Prince John is one of the aspects of it that is good, but of course he's not the best. Next character I have up here is Lady Tremaine. You could see a lot of the less famous villains being down here, but Lady Tremaine, I think Lady Tremaine probably has her own fan base, probably. Lady Tremaine... Ah! Well, she's all the way over there now. Lady Tremaine, a lot of people I met, they don't even know what the name Lady Tremaine is, but what most people refer to her as is Cinderella's wicked stepmother, but I don't hear a lot of people call her Lady Tremaine, and I know a lot of people who don't even know that didn't even know her real name. So she's obviously not that famous. She's always just been known to me as Cinderella's wicked stepmother, until I actually started paying attention to Disney like 3 years ago. But, ooh, hope you guys didn't see who's up next. Either way, though, I find Lady Tremaine menacing enough in the movie. In Cinderella, I do cringe sometimes when she's on screen because of how she treats Cinderella, but that's her character. She's just an awful, awful woman, and that makes her a good enough villain for me to be stopped in the end. Next character I have is Gaston. Huge jerk. Everybody knows him as being the guy who doesn't get the girl. Probably. Macho man, thinks he has everything. Too full of himself to even care about Belle. He's only there for her looks and not for her personality. And he's just... He's a douche. He's a douchebag. He sucks. But he's a fitting villain for what they're trying to go with for the character of Belle. Like, she's smart and loves thinking. However, Gaston isn't really looking for a man. However, Gaston is full of himself and hates thinking and is looking for a woman, and it all ties well with character. Next one I have is a Disney villain. I didn't actually expect to put this high up on the list. Next I have is Evil Queen. Evil Queen being the Snow White villain. She's wicked. Isn't her name Grimhilda? I think her name's Lady Grimhilda. Yeah. But either way, she's not as good as the other ones. But there's something that she has that all the other villains that have been behind her do not, and that's, I remember every scene that she was in. So that's the only reason she's this high up here, is because I remember every scene that she is in the movie. And that's because her wickedness kind of just sticks with you in your head. And ever since I seen Snow White as a little child, I've remembered the Evil Queen. So, next up, I have, voila, Horned King. Horned King has only ever been close to the top of my rankings. When I did the ranking the Villainous pieces, he was at the top. Horned King, you know, this isn't a video based on the game itself. This is a video based on movies. Horned King doesn't have too much screen time in the Black Cauldron, but Black Cauldron is a fairly short movie. It's also criminally underrated. It's a good movie. But the Horned King doesn't get much himself. He also takes credit for having one of the scariest deaths in Disney history. Seeing all his skin get ripped off him, and seeing the blood go around and stuff like that as he goes into the cauldron. Black Cauldron is often considered the darkest Disney movie. But yeah, Horned King, he exists. That's all I had to say about him. That's how I had to say about. Now we're getting into some hot takes, but we're also getting into some of the more famous Disney villains. One villain who I see most people put very close to the top of their list, I just never connected with her, and that is Ursula. Okay, so I don't know if I mentioned this on my channel before, but I do not like The Little Mermaid. I don't like the Little Mermaid. I don't like The Little Mermaid. Never liked The Little Mermaid. And Ursula herself being the best part of the movie, but the fact that Ursula doesn't get much screen time, she usually just sits in her lair, and the next time you see her, she's turning huge. One thing I found very cool about Ursula was how smart she is. Like, getting Ariel to give up her voice, and then trapping Ariel's voice in that necklace, to use that singing voice, tricking Prince Eric, thinking that it was Ursula who was the actual girl, trying to get Ariel, doing all these plans. But it goes from princess fantasy movie to you're fighting the giant octopus witch thing. And Ursula, like, if she had more screen time, probably would have been better. And that's actually the same problem for this next villain, and that is Maleficent. Maleficent is often at the very top of a lot of your lists. Literally, the mistress of all evil is her nickname. Maleficent is a great villain. She's not a great villain. She doesn't have... I'm not going off the Maleficent movie because she's not the villain in that movie. I'm going off the Sleeping Beauty movie. Definitely one of the most evil, cursing a baby to die at her 16th birthday just because you weren't invited to a party. But I think the reason why Maleficent's this high is because I really like her powers that she has. I love to just cast thorns everywhere to block people away from getting me. I'm like, I'm blocking myself from society. But Maleficent doesn't have much aside from my opinions from Ursula, except for the fact that her villainy stays consistent in the movie, in which Ursula is just not even a part of the movie sometimes. But whenever you're watching Sleeping Beauty, you always had that feeling that Maleficent is watching over you, like having her crow go after and watch Ariel. So, the first of the Marvel villains that you'll see on here for a while, all the Marvel villainous characters are pretty much at the top, pretty much, except this one. And this was just such a huge bummer for me. I know that the movie's kind of new, not too new no more, but this is spoilers for Black Widow. Taskmaster. Oh, Taskmaster, what have they done for you? What have they done to you? Taskmaster, he gets some really good action. Black Widow has those action scenes in which you're like the big Avengers movies, they have fighting where they're fighting. Black Widow has the type of fight scene where you're cringing because you're like, oh, you felt that. You felt that happen. You felt him when he kicked Black Widow in the stomach and basically threw her across to the other side of the bridge. But aside from that, what they did with the villain is first of all, they oversold him in the trailers. Like, he's constantly in the trailers, pretty much, but that's what they show you in the trailer is pretty much all the scenes that he gets, just really shortened, so he doesn't get that much screen time. And at the same time, the person he actually is not good. I'm not going to go in depth on who he actually is. It's a he or a she. That's all I'm going to say. It's a he or she. Who he or she actually is, and just didn't like what they did with the character all that much, because he ended up, here's one spoiler, he ended up just being a henchman. So that's the only spoiler I'm going to give for he or she. Okay, so now we're getting back into the Disney, which is the next villain, which will be Jafar. Now, I used to watch the first original cartoon Aladdin all the time. I'm not going to go in depth with the live-action one because that one was awful. I don't like the live-action Disney movies unless it's Maleficent. The Maleficent movies are the only live-action Disney movies I like. But Jafar never really stuck with me all that much when I was younger. I didn't remember a lot of the scenes, but he always had that him turning into a giant cobra that stuck with me a lot. And I liked this little Prince Ali parody song that he had. And Jafar, every time he's on screen, you just have I rewatched the animated Aladdin recently, and Jafar, every time he's on screen, he's just a delight. Iago's a delight too. Seeing their friendship together, it's just great. Jafar's a great villain. Next villain I have is probably who people put at the very top of their evil list, Cruella De Vil. Because Cruella De Vil wants to kill a whole bunch of puppies to get a fur coat. I never really went in depth about this piece. It's really like how it puts like the little fur here. One thing I don't think I mentioned was how they put like the tails to come off of her purse here on the back of her piece, which I found really cool. Anyways, Cruella De Vil wants to kill a bunch of puppies for a fur coat. That's pretty much her character. But she has these henchmen, Horace and Jasper. And this shows how smart she cannot be by hiring Horace and Jasper. Not very smart of her to hire people like Horace and Jasper. But the dynamic, it works so well. Cruella De Vil is a great villain. And honestly, I'll watch 101 and Dalmatians every day, and each time, any day, and each time I watch it, she will be one of the best parts of the movie. But usually, Disney villains like this. One villain who I think is in that middle of the barrel, she's known, but by a lot of she's known by a lot of people, but at the same time, she's not known by a lot of people, and that is Yzma. Yzma is a fun villain. She also has very iconic lines like, "A llama, he's supposed to be dead," and "Pull the lever, cronk, wrong lever." It's just a very good villain, enjoying, and then she seems comedic at first, and then she gets into her sinister side, but while she's going through her sinister side, she's good. She's so funny. And her henchman Kronk, also she's not the smartest villain for hiring Kronk, but either way, she is a very fun villain, and I'm honestly surprised I didn't put her higher. But these villains all these villains that are above Taskmaster, I really like every villain above Taskmaster I really like. So the next villain here I have is Captain Hook. Captain Hook in the Peter Pan movie, he is hilarious. He's like, "Did Pan show good form when he did this to me?" He's a very funny villain. And honestly, in the movie, you kind of feel for him because you know that you know the story, Peter Pan chopped off his hand and fed it to the crocodile. And that's why the crocodile's after him. And Captain Hook's one of those villains, like, honestly, if he wasn't seen as the villain of the movie, there was like no one seen as the villain of the movie, you're either cheering for Peter Pan or Captain Hook. I'd be cheering for Captain Hook because I would wanna, like, I don't think no, I wouldn't cheer for Captain Hook because Captain Hook's trying to kill him. The most Captain Hook should have done, is take Peter's hand if Captain Hook really wanted to go over the top. It's just like, take Peter's hand, give him a hook. Stuff like that, like, not kill the dude, but you should you sometimes feel for Captain Hook because of the fact that Peter Pan did cut off his hand, but Captain Hook, he's always funny, always messing up. You see him, he's acting all big and macho, but then he always gets scared of that crocodile. He's a scoundrel. Next I have is our smallest villain here, and that is Ratigan, Professor Ratigan. Ratigan has, ever since I've seen The Great Mouse Detective, Ratigan has been one of my favorite parts of it. Because I like the detective movies, and Ratigan is a great villain for the protagonist. And the traps he set up, the fact that he is in charge of a big cat, the fact that he has his own following of criminals down under, and the fact that he is the only criminal to ever stump Basil. It's insane how smart these two can be, but in the end, Basil comes out being smarter. Well, no, you gotta think, who is smarter? I honestly believe that Ratigan is probably smarter. It's only when you see his kind of like dumb side when he gets too cocky at the end there and the bell rings and he falls off the clock to his death. But other than that, he has stumped Basil, and he even managed to almost kill Basil, but Basil did end up getting the upper hand on him in the finale there. The next villain I have here is, usually he's not this high up on any of my lists, but in this list, it is Dr. Facilier. I do like Dr. Facilier in the movie, I will say that. Dr. Facilier is a very fun voodoo man. You got friends on the other side. My girlfriend calls him Waluigi, which I think is kind of funny. But he is a good villain, and he's always even though I didn't really like the Princess and the Frog movie when I first seen it when I was a young kid, I always liked Dr. Facilier as a villain. The only thing I wish we got more out of him is more screen time and a bigger final battle. Like, have those shadow spirits going after them more. Don't just kill Ray. And yeah, making him lose points is the fact that he killed Ray. But they needed to have a bigger battle at the end. Like, even a bigger chase scene, because it goes from the shadow chase scene that's like 1 minute in itself, and then they go from 1 minute him confronting the heroes, and then he pretty much what people see as the final fight of the film is just him getting dragged into hell by his friends on the other side. They need to have more. They needed to have him like shooting magic, and they need to have Lawrence more involved. So they could have done more with the character in the end there, but either way, throughout the movie, he is a very good villain. Next villain I have up here is Mother Gothel. Mother Gothel is the wicked, rumored and theorized to be the evil queen, and you know what? I believe that. I believe that she is the evil queen. Look up videos on it, on why Mother Gothel is most likely the evil queen. And there is one clue in there that is very compelling. But Mother Gothel kidnaps Rapunzel and keeps her in the tower. And Mother Gothel's one of those smarter villains, being able to lie to a girl for so long and being able to keep her in that tower for so long. Honestly, like, even Rapunzel being a teenager, not sneaking out of the tower sooner, that has to give points to Mother Gothel. But of course, young age, Mother Gothel's not the smartest of Disney villains, but, well, she is one of the smartest of Disney villains. She's very manipulative, and she's always seeing her little hunt with the Stabbington brothers for Rapunzel and her plan to have them try to kidnap Rapunzel. It's all a very fun time. Whenever Mother Gothel's tip of her flower here is like misplaced, so then trying to get popped again. It's been like that forever, though. Anyways, Mother Gothel's always been a very fun villain. And kind of embarrassing to say, but Tangled is my favorite Disney movie. And it's not because it's a Disney princess, it's because Flynn Rider is one of my favorite Disney characters. But Rapunzel's also funny with the frying pan boat. Rapunzel's, just because it's a Disney movie doesn't mean it can't. It's a princess movie. But it was a princess movie meant for more little children. It's definitely my favorite Disney film because it's freaking hilarious. Next villain I have up here, you've probably already seen it. It is Hades. Hades is the next villain. The stunning performance from the actor I don't know the name of, known in the movie as his performance for his fast talking as Hades. Very comedic. Hades is one of the most hilarious villains that I think I've ever seen. Hades is hilarious in the movie, and he's always just a super, super fun villain to see on camera. And he also had that little plot twist with Meg, like he's comedic and all that, but then when you see that he has Meg's soul, it's like gets dark all of a sudden. And that causes him to manipulate Hercules a little bit. And honestly, Hades is another one of those villains you feel for him because he's been trapped down in the underworld, running the underworld while all the gods are up on the top of Mount Olympus just partying down there. Okay, so got our last Disney villain here. It's Scar. Scar, best Disney villain. Nothing you guys are going to conflict about it. Scar is my favorite Disney villain. He's sinister, funny, manipulative, genius. He has all the traits that a good villain needs to have. And I'm sure he has that cult classic, Long Live the King scene, "Long live the king." And I'm sure he made you all cry. I'm sure he made most of us cry as a little kid when he told Simba that it's his fault that Mufasa died. That scene has made me cry when I was younger. It doesn't make me cry no more, but that's because I'm more mature now. I'm a strong person. So the next villain I have here is Killmonger. Okay. Next villain I have here is Killmonger. And see, the top 4 are Marvel villains, so you can see how the top 4 Marvel villains are at the top of my list, and Taskmaster is all the way down there. But Taskmaster's second place on my favorites in Marvel Villainous and playstyle. But of course, this is going off their character in their movie, and Killmonger is a delight. Michael B. Jordan going from playing a character in one of the worst Marvel movies to playing a character, in one of the worst Marvel movies to playing a character in one of the best Marvel movies. Same for Captain America. Actually, it's kind of funny how Captain America and Michael B. Jordan both played the same characters, the Human Torch, in 2 different Fantastic Four movies, which are said to be some of the worst Marvel movies out there. And then they both jump up to be such classic characters, because you got Chris Evans coming up as Captain America, and then you got Michael B. Jordan coming up as Killmonger. One of the best Marvel villains, because the MCU is also, one of the famous things about the MCU is that it doesn't really have good villains most of the time. But Killmonger was brought and was one of those good Disney villains. And he pretty much won by the end of the movie, because what T'Challa did after hearing Killmonger's plan and all that, T'Challa did what Killmonger wanted. So Killmonger, even in death, pretty much won, and he's also one of those relatable Disney villains, getting his father taken from him by his own uncle. And Killmonger is just a very good villain. Next villain I have here is what, if anybody else who has every Villainous set out there, they probably put, and they're bigger fans of Marvel than Disney, they probably have this up at the top of their list. This guy at the top of their list, I have Thanos. Thanos is a good villain, but a lot of the time I just find him to be kind of boring. See, my problem is that I never really liked Endgame that much. But he is known as the villain who, not in death, won the day. The MCU took a risk. Kevin Feige took a risk. Kevin Feige took a risk and let the villain win in Infinity War. Told the directors to let the villain win. And that's what they did. They let Thanos win at the end of the Infinity War, and and now the heroes had a straight up only goal motivation to stop Thanos and bring their friends back. Thanos was the one who wiped out half of the universe's population. He was the one who collected all 6 Infinity Stones. I actually saw a funny meme. It's like, who will win? Every character in the MCU or a rock collector? A purple-colored rock collector. And Thanos has always just been a very good villain, but I like these 2 villains more than him. In second place is Hela. Hela is the best Thor villain. No, she is not the best Thor villain. She is not the best Thor villain. Loki is the best Thor villain. If I actually had... The reason I'm doing this video now before I get the new villain, it says, because I'm not... It's so weird. It seems so weird on the website. It should get here tomorrow by what I'm assuming it's saying. But I don't actually know when it's going to get here. Loki would be at the very top, because Loki's my favorite movie character ever. But Hela takes second place She was actually... Thor Ragnarok was not the first MCU movie I seen. Because I seen it in 2017 when it came out. But that was before I was... But this... Thor Ragnarok came out when I wasn't into Marvel. But my dad had just put it on. He's like, oh yeah, let's watch Thor Ragnarok for the first time. And this movie... This is the movie that got me into the MCU. After I watched that movie, I went through all the Marvel movies and I watched them all. I actually watched Guardians of the Galaxy before this, but I did not know that Guardians of the Galaxy was part of the MCU. I did not know that it was part of the MCU. I just repeated myself there. But yeah, Thor Ragnarok is the movie that got me into Marvel, and Hela plays a big part in the reason why I am into Marvel because of that movie. Because Thor Ragnarok is just one of the best Marvel movies. Not Disney movies. Marvel movies. I mean, Marvel is... The MCU is Disney, but I don't combine the two into one. But Hela, and pretty much the whole movie as a whole, was just one of my favorite movies to watch, and I'll watch it anytime, honestly. Next, well, first place villain I have here, my favorite villain out of all these villains, the 20 takes the first out of 23, and that is Ultron. If any of you guys know from my previous videos, Ultron is my favorite Marvel villain, and I think in my latest ranking of them, I'm pretty sure I put him under Scar, but that's not actually the case. I'm pretty sure Ultron's above Scar. Anyways, Ultron has been my favorite movie villain for a long time until I rewatched like Avengers, and then the Loki series came out, and then Loki got above. I don't know when the second season's coming out because the first season of Loki ended. But I'm waiting. I hope that second season comes out soon enough. But Ultron has been a great villain. He still is a great villain. He's in one of the most ill-received Marvel movies. But I'm in the category where I think that Age of Ultron gets a little too much hate, and it's also one of my favorite MCU movies. It is my favorite out of the Avengers movies because of Ultron. I never read the comics as a kid, and everybody's like, yeah, we have, like, I see some people rank the Marvel villains, and they're like, yeah, well, Ultron's a menacing presence in the comics, but in this movie he's just comedic, and he's never all that menacing. And I'm like, well, who cares? I never seen the comics. But the fact that Iron Man is my second favorite character in the MCU, and has Ultron's personality, and Ultron has Tony Stark's personality built into him. Ultron is all around just a great villain. Another reason why I didn't do it with the Marvel Villainous is because I haven't watched the MODOK series. I don't like that stop motion stuff. It kind of creeps me out. Like Robot Chicken stuff, it kind of creeps me out a little bit. But either way, I'm not into shows like that. And Madame Mask, I never watched the one show that she was in, but I don't know if she was like really in it or not. But she is rumored to be in the Hawkeye series, so I was also not waiting for the next Marvel set, because Loki would be the only one who would actually be on this list. But yeah, that is it. That is my ranking. If you want to go over my ranking from my least favorite of these villains in their movies to my favorite of these villains in their movies, 23 to 1 goes Queen of Hearts, Pete, Prince John, Lady Tremaine, Gaston, Horned King, Ursula, Maleficent, Taskmaster, Jafar, Cruella De Vil, Yzma, Captain Hook, Ratigan, Shadow, Dr. Facilier, Mother Gothel, Hades, Scar, Killmonger, Thanos, Hela, and Ultron. And that is my ranking. I hope you guys enjoyed, and I will see you in the next video. Goodbye.